When the proposal came, it sounded less like romance and more like a business merger. Aisha Bello read the contract twice before lifting her eyes to the man sitting across from her. Adrian Cole did not look nervous. Billionaires rarely did. His charcoal suit fit perfectly, his expression calm, composed, almost indifferent. The kind of man newspapers described as ruthlessly efficient. The kind of man who turned failing companies into empires. And now, apparently, the kind of man who needed a wife. "It's temporary," Adrian said, sliding a fountain pen toward her across the polished table. 1 year. Public appearances. Charity galas. Media interviews. My board believes a stable family image will reassure investors. Aisha almost laughed. "So," she said slowly, "you want to marry a stranger to save your company?" "Yes." No hesitation. No apology. Outside the tall glass windows, Lagos traffic hummed endlessly, but inside his office everything felt unnaturally still. "And why me?" she asked. "You're qualified." "That's not an answer." He leaned back slightly, studying her in a way that made her straighten unconsciously. "You have no scandals," he said. "You run a successful architectural studio despite limited funding. Your reputation is admirable." Admirable. Not beautiful. Not charming. Admirable. Aisha folded her arms. "You sound like you're hiring an accountant." "In many ways," Adrian replied evenly, "I am." She should have walked away. She had every reason to. Her business struggled to survive rising rent costs. Her younger brother's university fees were overdue. And her landlord had recently discovered new enthusiasm for eviction notices. Still. Marriage? To a man whose voice never softened? "I don't believe in pretending feelings," she said quietly. "Neither do I." His honesty startled her. "No expectations," Adrian continued. "Separate bedrooms. Financial independence. At the end of 12 months, we divorce quietly. Simple. Clean. Safe." Her heart should not have fluttered when he added gently, "You will never be disrespected under my name." It wasn't romantic. But it was kind. She signed. The wedding shocked the city. Headlines called it unexpected. Social media called her lucky. Fashion magazines analyzed her dress for weeks. Only Aisha knew the truth. Their marriage began with polite distance. They lived in a sprawling penthouse overlooking the ocean, yet somehow rarely crossed paths outside scheduled dinners arranged by Adrian's assistant. He worked late. She designed buildings that existed first as sketches scattered across the dining table. At night she sometimes heard him moving quietly through the kitchen, making coffee at 2 in the morning. Neither mentioned it. Neither crossed the invisible line. Until the rainstorm. It arrived suddenly one evening, heavy drops drumming against the windows while lightning flickered softly over the sea. Aisha sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by blueprints when the lights flickered out. "Perfect," she muttered. Moments later, footsteps approached. A candle appeared beside her. Adrian knelt, placing it carefully away from the papers. "The generator will start shortly," he said. She looked up. Without the harsh office lighting or tailored jacket, he seemed younger. His sleeves rolled up, hair slightly disordered. "Human." "Thank you," she said. He didn't leave. Instead, his gaze drifted across her sketches. "You designed these?" "Yes." Silence followed. Then he surprised her again. "They're beautiful." "Not admirable. Beautiful." Something warm settled unexpectedly in her chest. "Do you ever rest?" she asked. "Rarely." "That sounds lonely." His mouth curved faintly, almost amused. Efficiency doesn't prioritize loneliness. She laughed despite herself. The generator hummed back to life, flooding the room with light, but neither moved immediately. That night became the first of many small changes. Morning coffee appeared beside her drawings without explanation. He began asking about her projects. She learned he disliked loud parties despite hosting many. He learned she sang quietly while cooking. They started eating breakfast together. Then walking together. Then laughing. Real laughter. The first time Adrian smiled fully at her was during a charity event when she whispered commentary about a politician's overly dramatic speech. He nearly choked on champagne. Rumors began circulating. "The chemistry looks real," a journalist wrote. Neither corrected them. Because somewhere between shared dinners and quiet conversations, pretending had become unnecessary. 3 months later, Aisha found him asleep on the sofa. His laptop rested open beside him, spreadsheets glowing. She meant only to close it. But a notification appeared on the screen. Board meeting, emergency resolution draft. Her name caught her attention. She hesitated. Then read. The words blurred slowly into understanding. Marriage clause fulfilled. Investor confidence restored. Divorce announcement recommended at 6 months to maintain market momentum. 6 months. Not 12. Her chest tightened. He hadn't told her. She closed the laptop gently. That evening Adrian returned later than usual. He paused when he saw her waiting at the dining table. No drawings. No food. Just her. "Aisha," he said cautiously. She stood. Was this always the plan? She slid printed papers toward him. He froze. For the first time since she'd known him, Adrian Cole looked uncertain. "It's complicated," he said quietly. "That usually means yes." Silence stretched between them. Rain tapped softly against the windows again, like the night everything had begun to change. "You said 1 year," she whispered. His voice lowered. "I intended to tell you." "When?" He didn't answer immediately. And somehow that hurt more than the truth itself. She swallowed. "I thought," she laughed weakly. "I thought maybe we were becoming something real." His jaw tightened. "Aisha. Don't," she said softly. "Please don't explain strategy to me." She turned away before he could see her eyes shine. "I'll cooperate," she added, steadying her voice. "It's a contract, after all." She walked toward her room, each step heavier than the last. Behind her, Adrian did not move. The next morning, headlines exploded. Coal industry saved from collapse. Investors celebrated. Markets rose. Everything he had worked for finally stabilized. He should have felt victorious. Instead, Adrian stood alone in the kitchen holding 2 untouched cups of coffee. Across the counter lay divorce documents prepared weeks earlier. He stared at them for a long time. Then at the empty chair where she usually sat sketching while humming softly. For the first time in years, efficiency failed him. Because somewhere between saving his company and sharing quiet mornings, Adrian realized something terrifying. He no longer wanted the exit clause. He wanted her. Footsteps approached behind him. Aisha's voice came gently. "I received a call from your lawyer this morning." He turned slowly. She looked calm. Too calm. Her suitcase stood beside her. "I signed the revised agreement," she continued. "If 6 months is what you need, then 6 months it is." His chest tightened. "Aisha." She met his eyes. And smiled politely. The same smile she'd worn the day she first signed the contract. Professional. Distant. "Don't worry," she said softly. I won't let emotions interfere with business. She reached for the door. His hand lifted instinctively, but stopped halfway. Because for the first time in his life, Adrian Cole didn't know whether stopping her would save everything, or destroy the only thing that had ever begun to feel like home. And just as her fingers touched the handle, his phone rang. The caller ID flashed a single message from the board chairman. You need to see this immediately. Adrian answered, listened, and all the color drained from his face. Slowly, he turned toward Aisha. Aisha, he said hoarsely. She frowned. What happened? He swallowed. The company isn't the only thing they plan to take from me. Her hand slipped from the door. What do you mean? Adrian stepped toward her, eyes filled with something she had never seen before. Fear. And something dangerously close to love. I think, he said quietly, our marriage was never meant to end the way we believed. Aisha didn't move. Something in Adrian's voice, not urgency, not command, but vulnerability, rooted her to the floor. What do you mean? She asked again. He lowered the phone slowly, as though even the movement required effort. The board chairman just informed me that a new majority shareholder has appeared, he said. That sounds like normal business, she replied carefully. It would be, Adrian murmured, if the shares hadn't been purchased through shell companies over the last 3 months. Her brows knit together. And? He exhaled. They now own enough voting power to remove me as CEO. Silence filled the kitchen. Outside, the morning sun painted soft gold across the marble floors, mocking the heaviness settling between them. But your company just recovered, Aisha said. Yes. That makes no sense. Adrian gave a humorless smile. It makes perfect sense. He stepped closer, placing the phone on the counter as though distancing himself from it. The marriage stabilized investor confidence. Stock prices rose. The company became valuable again. Understanding dawned slowly in her eyes. They waited until you fixed everything, she whispered. And then bought control. He nodded once. Her suitcase suddenly felt ridiculous beside her. So, they want to fire you? She asked. That would be the polite version. And the impolite one? They want my resignation before tonight's board meeting. Aisha stared at him. For the first time since she'd known him, Adrian looked exhausted. Not physically. Emotionally. As if years of discipline had cracked overnight. She crossed her arms instinctively. You've survived worse. Yes. He hesitated. But this time. His gaze dropped briefly to the divorce documents still lying on the counter. This time I might lose everything at once. Her chest tightened despite herself. You still have your wealth, she said quietly. That isn't everything. His answer came too quickly. Their eyes met. Something fragile hovered there, unspoken, unfinished. She looked away first. Well, she said, forcing composure back into her voice, your board problems don't change our agreement. He flinched almost imperceptibly. Aisha. I signed it, she continued gently. You needed a wife for appearances. You have one. The distance between them felt wider than the ocean outside their windows. She picked up the handle of her suitcase again. I'll stay until the 6 months end. Each word sounded careful. Measured. Safe. Exactly the way their marriage had begun. Adrian watched her quietly. Then said something unexpected. I don't want you to. She froze. Excuse me? I don't want this marriage to end, he said. No grand declaration. No dramatic tone. Just truth. Her heartbeat betrayed her immediately. That isn't funny, she whispered. I'm not joking. She shook her head, stepping back. You changed the contract without telling me. I was wrong. You used me to convince investors. I did. The honesty nearly hurt more. So why, she demanded softly, should I believe anything you say now? He didn't answer right away. Instead, Adrian walked to the dining table where her sketchbook lay open. Carefully, almost reverently, he picked it up. Inside were unfinished drawings. Apartment buildings filled with sunlight. Community parks. Schools. Dreams shaped in pencil. You remember the night the power went out? He asked. Her confusion deepened. Yes. That was the first time in years I stopped thinking about quarterly reports. His thumb brushed the page lightly. You talked about designing homes where people actually wanted to stay. Not just buildings that impressed investors. Aisha swallowed. You listened? I listened to everything you say. His voice softened. And somewhere between morning coffee and arguing about terrible television shows, I forgot this marriage was supposed to be temporary. Her defenses trembled dangerously. You didn't forget the 6-month clause. No, he admitted. I convinced myself ending it early would protect you. She blinked. Protect me from what? My world. The answer surprised both of them. He stepped closer. You deserve someone who chooses you without calculation. And you don't? She asked quietly. He hesitated. For most of my life, Adrian said slowly, every decision I made had a cost-benefit analysis attached. His eyes lifted to hers. You are the first mistake I ever hoped would ruin my plans. Her breath caught. Silence stretched. She wanted to believe him. That was the terrifying part. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed again. Another message. He glanced down. His expression hardened. They've moved the board meeting forward, he said. To when? 2 hours. Her mind shifted instinctively into problem-solving mode. That's barely enough time to prepare. They don't want preparation, he replied. They want surrender. Something stubborn sparked inside her.